The silence hit first, not the quiet of empty land, but a thick, smothering hush, as if the ancient pines leaned closer to listen. My GPS had sputtered into static 10 miles back, just as the asphalt surrendered to a rutted track choked with weeds. Devil's Hollow. The name on Professor Alden's brittle map felt like a tombstone etching. His final fevered note echoed, Site 7K, geomantic nexus confirmed. Ley convergence exceeds all models. Extreme caution. Extreme caution felt laughably inadequate now. The village materialized through the dust-choked windshield like a wound festering in the hillside. Timber cabins, warped by centuries and something else, hunched under moss-slathered roofs. Gardens exploded with unnerving fecundity. Tomatoes like swollen hearts, cabbages leathery and vast, but utterly devoid of life. No birdsong, no insect hum, no dogs barking, only the oppressive weight of eyes. Pale faces, etched with the same deep wrinkles and shadowed by the same heavy brows, watched from grimy windows. Their eyes, uniformly dark and depthless as obsidian chips, tracked my car's progress, a chilling uniformity, as if stamped from the same worn mold. I parked beside a skeletal well, its stones slick with unnatural dampness. The air tasted metallic, charged. Knocking on the nearest door felt like disturbing a grave. The woman who answered was gaunt, draped in homespun gray. Her smile was a thin, bloodless slash. Lost? Her voice rasped like dry corn husks underfoot. Research, I managed, throat tight. Folklore, local history. Professor Alden sent me. He mentioned unique geological features here. I avoided the termly lines. Instinct screamed caution. Her smile vanished, replaced by a flat reptilian stare. Alden came prying, gone now. Her gaze flickered past me towards the encroaching woods. Sun touches the tallest pine. That's when the hollow wakes. Be gone by then. The door slammed, a final punctuation. Gone now. Alden's disappearance wasn't in the file. Cold dread coiled in my gut. The Crooked Stone Tavern, its sign hanging askew on rusted chains, offered the only flicker of light. Inside, the silence deepened, thick with pipe smoke and unspoken dread. Men hunched over crude mugs of dark ale, their movements eerily synchronized. A lifted mug here, a scratch there, all in unsettling unison. They moved like parts of a single sluggish organism. The barman, a mountain of muscle with the same hollow eyes, slid a chipped mug towards me. The ale inside smelled faintly of damp earth and copper. Passin' through? His voice was a low rumble, like stones grinding deep underground. Studying the land, I ventured, forcing calm. Energy patterns, telluric currents. Some call them ley lines. A collective intake of breath. A grizzled man near the hearth spat a thick glob onto the stone floor. It sizzled faintly. Devil's veins, he muttered, the words thick with superstitious venom. Best left buried. Before I could probe, the tavern door creaked open. Elder Borodin stood framed in the dying light. He was impossibly ancient, a figure carved from driftwood and draped in coarse, undyed wool the color of dried mud. He leaned heavily on a gnarled birch staff, knuckles white, yet his dark eyes burned with an unnerving vitality. "You feel it, outsider," he stated, his voice surprisingly strong, resonant. It vibrated in my bones. He tapped his staff against the packed earth floor. Thud. The Zila, the life vein. It stirs. He gestured towards the forested hills. We tend it, prune its wildness, and it tends us. A smile touched his thin lips, devoid of warmth. Come. Sunset nears. Resistance felt futile, dangerous. He led me to a cabin older than the others. Its timbers blackened, and weeping resin that smelled unnervingly like old blood. Inside, the air hummed with palpable energy. My fillings ached, my vision blurred at the edges. Dust motes danced in shafts of fading light, not drifting, but pulsing in time, with a deep subsonic thrum emanating from beneath the floorboards. On a crude table lay his map, not of roads or rivers, but a chaotic lattice of jagged intersecting lines scored deep into aged parchment. They glowed faintly, like embers under ash. At their convergence, a pulsing node burned crimson, its light seeming to seep into the parchment. Tiny, archaic symbols clustered around it, spirals, hooked claws, weeping eyes. This wasn't cartography. It was an autopsy of the land's malignant soul. Our covenant, Borodin whispered, tracing a bony finger along a throbbing line. His touch made the light flare. Forged in blood 3 centuries past, we feed the node, keep its hunger, focused, and it feeds us. He gestured vaguely towards the unnaturally fertile fields visible through the grimy window. Life blooms where it should not. Winters bite less deep. The soil gives without asking. Feed it what? The question clawed its way out, though I dreaded the answer. His smile widened, revealing surprisingly strong, yellowed teeth. What all ancient hungers crave outsider: flesh, bone, the spark within. His finger stabbed the map, landing near the edge of the crimson node. A small, crude sketch of a cabin, identical to the one I'd rented on the village outskirts. You stopped here, slept here, on its very throat, where the pulse is strongest. His eyes locked onto mine, the ancient vitality in them now predatory. You've stirred it, woken a hunger mere crops cannot sate. Tonight it demands stronger fare. Outside, the last sliver of sun vanished. Torches flared to life around the village square, casting long, dancing shadows that seemed to writhe independently. Villagers emerged from their cabins, moving with that same eerie synchronicity. Their chanting began, low and guttural, a language older than the pines, vibrating up through the soles of my boots. Krov da kost, zemle sviatoi. Blood and bone to sacred ground. Zila golodna, zila jdet. The vein is hungry, the vein waits. Borodin snatched the map, thrusting it into my trembling hands. The lines felt hot, squirming like serpents under my fingertips. The crimson node pulsed faster, brighter. The sketch of my cabin seemed to bleed into the glowing lines. He produced a ritual blade from his robes, not metal, but a length of dark polished antler, one end sharpened to a vicious point, etched with the same symbols as the map. The air grew thick, tasting of ozone and decaying leaves. Hands seized me, cold, strong, moving with inhuman coordination. My struggles were useless against their collective strength. They dragged me towards the woods, the chanting rising to a fevered pitch, merging with the ever louder thump, thump, thump from the earth. The ground itself seemed to heave. Roots snaked across the path, coiling around my ankles like eager fingers. Ahead, a clearing pulsed with a sickly phosphorescent light. It emanated from a spiral of moss-covered standing stones, ancient and slick. Between them, the earth bulged and churned, oozing a viscous black sludge that reeked of sulfur and putrefaction. The node, the source of the Zila. It wasn't just a point on a map. It was a living, breathing wound in reality. Borodin stood before the pulsing mass, raising the antler blade. His chants became a guttural shriek, echoing unnaturally in the charged air. Zila prosnis, Zila vozmidar svoi. Vain, awaken, vain, take your offering. The villagers threw me forward. I stumbled, falling to my knees at the edge of the stone spiral. The stench was overwhelming, a physical assault. The thrumming filled my skull, a pressure threatening to burst it. Below, within the churning blackness, things shifted. Glimpses of iridescent scales catching the eldritch light, clusters of lidless eyes opening and closing in horrid unison, the suggestion of impossible limbs coiling and uncoiling. It wasn't just hunger. It was an ageless, ravenous void. The standing stones flared with blinding, actinic light. Agony seared through me. My skin blistered. My blood felt like molten lead. I screamed, a raw sound ripped from my very core, lost in the cacophony of chanting and the node's deafening roar. The earth didn't just sing, it shrieked in my mind, a voice composed of grinding tectonic plates and the despair of millennia. Finally, a new keeper, your blood stirred the deep hunger, you will tend the vein forever. The light consumed everything, the chanting, the villagers, the writhing horror beneath the stones, all dissolved into searing white oblivion. Then, silence, a profound, deafening silence. I opened my eyes. I was kneeling in the center of the stone circle. The oozing blackness was gone, replaced by smooth, cool earth. The stones stood dark and inert. The villagers were vanished. Dawn painted the sky in bruised purples and grays. But the map was still in my hand. The ley lines pulsed faintly, warm against my skin. The crimson node glowed with a steady, deep red light. And the whispering. It hadn't stopped. It was inside me now. A low, insistent hum in my marrow. A knowledge of the deep, dark veins threading the earth. A terrible awareness of the ancient hunger sleeping fitfully beneath Devil's Hollow. I looked towards the silent village. The gardens were impossibly lush, vibrant. The air was preternaturally still. Slowly, deliberately, I raised the antler blade Borodin had dropped. It felt cold, familiar. The first rays of dawn glinted off its polished point. The Zila murmured, a contented sigh vibrating through the soles of my feet. It was fed, for now. And I knew, with chilling certainty, what my role was. When the next outsider strayed too close to the node's hungry throat, when the sun touched the tallest pine, the keeper would be waiting. The pact demanded it. The land demanded it. The deep, ravenous vein in the earth demanded it.
The silence of Devil's Hollow was no longer oppressive. It was mine to command.